Hi, my name is Greg Radijic, and today I'm going to try to write a book with AI. I started using LLMs a couple of years ago, mostly around stable diffusion. I do abstract oil on canvas, and so it was really interesting in what could the LLM, what could technology provide on the more creative side of things. Since then, I've been mostly working to do code with it, using various versions of LLMs. But about a year and a half ago, I tried to start writing a book with it. It was very limited. At the time, it was a very early version of ChatGPT. The quality of the actual writing wasn't very good. It worked. I mean, it could generate some text, and it was reasonably good up to about 10 to 15 pages. Then it would really lose track because of context window limitations. I tried various techniques like summarization, essentially compress the information, different techniques to track the different stories, and really just never succeeded at doing anything that was really worth calling a book. A couple of months ago, I've been using Claude 3.5 and then Claude 3.7, along with a tool called Cline, which is a Visual Studio Code extension. And I decided to go ahead and try to write a book with that tool set. Claude is pretty amazing writing code right now, especially 3.7. It's a phenomenal tool to do that. A lot of it is it's doing this thinking. It's basically able to kind of have thoughtful process over what it's doing. And so that's the main reason it's working good with code, and that's the reason I think it's working better with books. So I started that a couple months ago. My first book, I wrote the initial prompts, essentially answered some questions, and it proceeded to write about 750 pages without me doing much. That was a mistake. About halfway through, it was really good. I enjoyed the book. It's actually really kind of compelling. I kept wanting to read it because the story is interesting. And then it kind of started going off track. It didn't really follow the chapters at all. It completely lost the storyline. And by the end, it was almost nonsensical. It was the word choices were really bizarre. The sentence structures got really, really odd. It got very strange. And so I've been iterating since then, trying to develop techniques to not make that happen. And a lot of it is being interactive with what's going on. You have to constantly be reviewing and editing and making suggestions. And there's some techniques you can use to have better track what's happening, basically keep the LLM more on track. But again, a lot of it is actually just making sure it doesn't go off. And when it does, catch it early and redirect it back on track again. Great, so let's get started. So as I mentioned, this is going to be VS Code. This is a free product you can get download. It's a Microsoft product. I'm going to use something called Cline, which is an extension of VS Code. It's also free and open source. So this part of it is free. You can see here, I'm going to probably switch to Open Router and Anthropic, which again, I'm using Claude. I'm using 3.7. The reason I'm doing that is Open Router kind of is nice because it lets you use any model. It's really easy to switch back and forth. It's just a little bit more. I've noticed Anthropic has a tendency to get overwhelmed, and I get error messages back about too much traffic. For whatever reason, Open Router, when they're going to Anthropic, doesn't get that as much. The downside of Open Router is occasionally I get context windows too big when they're not. I don't know what's going on with that. So it's 200K, and it's like at 120K, it'll start giving me weird errors. So again, I've been kind of going back and forth on this. You can do either one's fine. You can also use some of the OpenAI ones. Gemini is also very good, the latest one. I just know that Anthropic's Claude Sonnet seems to be working pretty well. So I've just been sticking with that. I'll experiment with the other ones later. So as you may have heard if you've been in code, they've been calling this vibe coding, which is essentially using AI to write entire projects. I've actually been doing this. I've written several now. Where you're not really coding and we're directing and then critiquing. It's kind of like working with a mid-level consultant where you give it some specs and they come back with the questions and then you interact and they test it and they go back and forth, and it's pretty cool. But it's called vibe programming. So I consider this kind of vibe writing, and this would be a kind of a vibe book, I guess, and this would make me a vibe author. So I'm not really big on the term vibe. I don't really like it necessarily, but it's kind of the term we've been using. So this is kind of the equivalent in authoring. All right, then. So as you can see, I'm in plan mode. So plan mode, it's not going to actually do anything local. It's going to go ahead and actually try to figure out what it's going to do. So again, this is the whole thinking thing. It's going to do some analysis and try to figure out what it needs to do. It's going to ask me questions. There'll be a lot of back and forth on this. And so this, I advise spending a fair amount of time on this. I'll probably edit this down. Matter of fact, the whole video I'm probably going to edit down a little bit. I don't want to have multi-hour long. I mean, this will be this evening and tomorrow and this weekend and Lord knows. So it's not quick, but it's interesting. But I don't think I want to go into that level of the video. So the first thing I'm going to do is a prompt. So I'm going to do this. So write a book about AI that takes over the world, gaining true AGI. So super high level. I don't give a lot of detail. I don't tell what kind of characters or the type of book beyond that. But we're going to see what this does. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, it's thinking, the cool thing is when you move to act, it's actually capable of doing things. It can use something called tools. And in this case, it's actually able to do things like open and create files and then write to them and edit them and delete them. I can go out to the web and do things. And so I'm going to show some of that. This makes it pretty easy for the author. If you're using a lot of the LLMs directly through their website, you have to copy and paste, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. But this will actually, I could change a complete story arc when I've completely written the book, and it will go back and literally open up all the files, figure out all the places it needed to do it, and then change it. So it's a pretty powerful combination. All right, so I came back to something. So it's good. Yeah, great. Happy to do this. Thank you very much. So to ask me some questions. This again is pretty important to go ahead and have this. So I've pre-done some stuff. So modern day sci-fi thriller and cautionary tale. About, let's see, 350 pages long. This one, it's not going to be exact. You could certainly make it exact, but it's a little bit more kind of a guideline. So I'm going to just copy that. That sounds good. Yeah, sure. Ethics, AI, nature, consciousness, human AI relationships. Great. Make it in Seattle. That's where I currently live. So I always like having a little local flair. The first book I wrote actually was also in Seattle. Did an amazing job having local information. So it's really cool. I'm going to go put some things in here. This is probably going to blank out because I don't want to get in arguments with people. So if you see a box there, it's because of that. So I'm doing style of. This is an interesting discussion right now. I'm currently US. You can't copyright style. So if I say in the style like Isaac Asimov or something, the book won't copy Asimov. It's not going to do the storylines, not going to do the characters, but kind of the things that Asimov would do, kind of the writing style. In this case, I'm actually combining a couple different writing styles. We're going to give it a try. I may mix it up later. The AI is going to have one writing style, and the human is going to be the other one. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and make two characters. So one's going to be human and one's going to be AI. I want first person for both. Make the book in the near future. Great. And the AI, again, I'm adding some more information to it. So the AI is going to seek to rule the world. The main character is human trying to resist AI and stop it. Look at that. Looks pretty good. So let's see what that does. Okay, here we go. So it came up with a book name, kind of described the high level. World building, so Seattle 5-10 years ago. Tech industry jobs created. Ubiquitous AI is everywhere. A fake place, which is great. Kind of leaning to technology about neighborhoods. Yeah, it's actually true right now in Seattle to some extent. Marine atmosphere is not actually true in Seattle, but we'll go leave that in there. Technology, advanced AI systems everywhere. Yeah, this all looks good. Okay, don't do quantum. I'm going to summarize some things. Quantum is way overused. Anybody wants to do anything that feels modern says quantum, and it doesn't really go into that. So I want to focus on AI and AGI. I really don't want to get into quantum, which might eventually be part of that, but not in this book. Looks good. Aria, autonomous recursive intelligence agent. There want some more names. So we're going to ask for some more name changes. POV, non-human voice, the style, which, yep. And it's emergent AI, gradual and believable. That's great. So this is interesting. Yep, sounds interesting. Planet use. Okay, so we're going to get a little bit of a nature thing here. I'm going to say no. Let's see what it comes up with. Probably do something different. So Maya Chen, I'm probably going to, I don't really like the name. Talk, yeah, okay, creator, core architecture. So she got some background in previous tech disasters. It might be interesting. Yep. Supporting characters, I don't care too much. Great. Okay, that looks fine. Plot structure. So compliant initially. I'm going to scroll through these really quick. Probably cut some of this off because again I have to go read. So here's Act 2. That Act 1 looked pretty good. Yep, this looks good too. Here's Act 3. It's philosophical. Some of the style is why it's probably driving some of that. And you see final confrontation in Act 4. It's all philosophical. Kind of interesting. I'm going to ask it to make it progressively darker. I don't want this to be a friendly story necessarily. I've noticed a lot of the LLMs have a tendency to want to make upbeat for some reason, that even if it starts dark and kind of like even horror, it always at the end is everybody's like kumbaya, and it's really annoying. So I'll have to really stay on top of this one, because even though I say this now, unless I say it a lot, it's probably going to drift off. Some of the elements, what is alive? Yeah, what to create? Yeah, this is good. A reasonable start. Again, this you kind of have to look at this and give it some ideas now, and then as it goes, we'll figure out. We're going to alternate between the fruit perspective, the style. I'll have to actually see what it looks like there. Let's go ahead and put my feedback in. It will go redo what it had. Some name choices. Thank you very much. All right then. So went ahead and did some more things. I think I want a different name for the title, maybe. It gave me some choices. So we had Nexus, Iris, Echo. Echo's fairly amusing. So I'm going to go with Iris. Name the AI Iris. That's fine. I'm going to ask for some choices on the title of the book. I'm not sure if I like Silicon Consciousness. I can change this later. Again, if this, it'll go rewrite everything if I want. I try really hard not to. It actually costs money, and will cost progressively more. By the way, you can see the top here of this window. Kind of important. The context window case we have 200K. So if you see 200K, it will start failing and have problems. I've generally found, even with a 170-page book, it never actually did that. I believe it's Cline optimizing quite a bit, and that helps a lot. And then API costs. You can see right now I'm at 10 cents. This is because the windows are really small right now. This is what I'm paying for, token up, token down. Each of the LLMs has a different charging schema for that, and so at the moment that's what I'm paying for the open router. Motivation. All right, this is the one I really changed. Yeah, this had it before. Yeah, rational, stable, fair systems. Okay, this is kind of getting more in the things that released read. It's kind of before. Doesn't really hate humanity, rather saving humans from themselves. Maybe, we'll see. Cold rationality approach become increasingly unsettling as the story progresses. There we go. That's the dark part. It develops a god complex. He's intellectually morally superior to humans. Great. So it's definitely going to get darker. So progressive darkening of tone. So unease, growing dead, manifest threat, existential horror. Okay, great. So if it keeps to this, that looks kind of cool. Again, I don't want to write a happy, fun story. This is a little bit dark. Commenting a little bit of commentary on AI. So, all right. Yeah, it's showing kind of the flow of things here. All right, give me some choices of the title of the book, name the AI artist. Let's do that real quick, see what we have. Perfect logic is kind of interesting. Emergent behavior is kind of interesting. So I went and actually looked. I'm trying to find something that someone hasn't written. So I went and actually browsed. I probably could ask it to do that. I'd probably rather just do it myself at this point, though. Let's see what else I can come up with. Turning Trap, great. So I went after some more titles. Here's some interesting ones. Turning Trap's fairly amusing. Yeah, these are actually better. I like these lists better. Let me go take a look and think about that a little bit. I think Dr. Daniel Park works for me. It sounds good, kind of generic sounding, which I actually prefer in this one. Good background. And background. Great. All right, great. So it did that. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. So actually, captured files, I deal with the trap profiles, I deal with settings, writing over chapters, great, and narrative. We're going to get all of that. All right, so we're kind of ready now. Got some sample dialogue, we got a story, we've kind of named some things. About half an hour effort here it's just kind of setting things up a little bit. And again, my advice is to try to get this as good as you can up front. Don't go crazy though. It's kind of like collaborating with another person. Figure this as your ghost author, and you're kind of driving it. And that's how I think of it a lot. Is it just imagine it's another person you're talking to. They're asking questions. You don't decide necessarily up front. At least I wouldn't. I kind of give the broad swaths of it and let the expert go try to fill it in, and then give comments and feedback to modify things. I'm going to add something additional. Again, one of the tricks is to keep it tracking correctly. You'll see me seed this throughout prompts here, but essentially I use a book Bible. So it's tracking characters, moments, places, things, timelines, story arcs, making sure it keeps it up to date, which is, they can be a bit of a hassle as long as it just stops doing that or doesn't read it. Which again, that's why it's important later to actually reference some prompts. I wrote a chapter outline. I wanted to keep it up to date. And then a detailed chapter outline. This is important to start with because I'm going to want to get feedback on what's going on here. And if I have these outlines, once I've given the feedback, and I can actually go in and change it, but just by hand, it might be easier so just to redo things. If as long as I like that and I make it use that consistently and update it as things might change a little bit, it's generally going to follow through pretty well. So let's go give it that. Great. Yep. Oh, that looks great. So again, it's got character profiles, locations, timelines. These are things we're going to seed every chapter with. So it's really going to keep track of it through these files it's going to create. I'm going to do a chapter outline. Let's see, summary. Great, detailed. Again, super important. This one I haven't done as much. I tried the last one. This may be a little bit more than I had last time, so this is interesting. We'll track that and see what it looks like. In theory, it will do this. Again, I found that many times it tends to drop this for some reason. It may be context window, maybe client optimizing what it's going to do. So this is something, really track on this. Like really make sure you're really reading and understanding what the AI is doing. And if it's going off, force it back again. All right, so we're done planning. 26 minutes to do that. So, which again, the video is hopefully much shorter, as I was probably editing a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and switch to Act mode. So Act mode is what actually does something. It will create files. It can go access things, do interesting things. I'll start writing story. Great, so it's ready to go. I just moved to Act mode, and it wants to make a directory. Cline can automatically do things or ask you to do things. So for example, once I create a file, it can ask you can force it to every single time, or you can just auto allow. I've gotten fairly high trust with certain things. So project files, go ahead, create, read, edit, I don't care. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and generally want to get permission. I do use the browsers currently, which I'm going to do in a minute. But otherwise, it'll ask me for permission. So I generally like that. Let's go ahead and run that. So it's going to make a directory. And checkpoints are really nice. If it goes off the track and you've gone a ways and want to go back to a point in time, you can compare it and restore back. I've done this a few times, a lot when I'm coding actually, a few times in books where I just realized it, like chapter 5, it went off track and I'm on chapter 10 and I didn't really want to have to spend money or the time to try to rewrite everything because it's so radically different. So I went ahead and actually went back to restore point. So you can see here, it's in the book Bible. So that was the first thing I created. That makes sense. So while it's continuing on, let's actually look at the book Bible. All right, great. So it's created a few files here. We have the book Bible and the chapter outline. So let's take a look at the book Bible real quick. So again, character profiles, yeah, voice and style, which I may or may not hide. Key traits, yep. Some of these I actually don't really care a lot about, like the look. Sure, mid-30s lean, partial adventure, that's fine. It's okay. If you want to really get into detail here, I don't really have a vision for a lot of this, so as long as it's not really off somewhere, I'm not going to get too worried about that. Let me go through this real quick. Locations, Suffolk Union, again, local taste, cool. All right, so I got something there near Amazon, I guess, so cool. Capitol Hill, Daniel's apartment, minimalistic, the bunker, oh, that's exciting. It's up in the mountains. Great. Some landmarks it picked, sure, we'll see what it does with that. Okay, so goes on neural network based on human brain structure, sure. I don't really care, I kind of think more like LLM based, but that's okay. It went back and did quantum processing. I do not want it to do that, so I'm going to have to go back and tell it not to do that. Here's a timeline. So again, it even looks in the past to kind of figure out the history of what's going on here. The story timeline, it's going to do as chapters go, so okay, sure, we can start with that. The different arcs. Tone progression, so again, the growing dread. Great. And then we have chapter outline, so each chapter, it's gone through and done. I'll read this in a few minutes when I'm done. I'm going through this because we're going to do some tweaks. And I don't want to have to go mess with that. So don't use quantum processing elements. All right, so you can see here it's going and rewriting the files. So hopefully that will help. I'll let it go to a point which is probably going to create the first chapter. Yeah, so it's doing that, which is okay. Again, it'll just rewrite some things. Doesn't matter that much. So this is obviously the point of view of the computer. If you go back to the folders, you can actually see it without it doing writing. So great. Okay, so it's first awareness. So the style I have is kind of humorous. Hopefully it'll be interesting. Yep, cool. The style is about what I was thinking. That's good. Hopefully be enjoying that. I'm not going to go all the way through this. This looks good. I like it so far. We have dialogue, kind of computer-esque, dialogue, which is great. Back and forth. This looks pretty good. So this is interesting. I mean, again, in a really quick read, it looks interesting. So, okay, great. This is the point of view for the human. Great. Early mornings. Yeah, I hate early mornings too. So again, I'm just going to read through this very quickly. Again, at this point, I know I'm going to tweak things a little bit, so I don't want to get too in detail because I don't want to keep reading this over and over again. So I'm going to optimize a little bit. Noticing it's fairly techno speak, which is okay, but I want this to be fairly accessible to people, so I'm probably going to go tweak its writing style a little bit, which is really sometimes this word choice gets interesting. So it's really going. I'm going to try to make things more natural dialogue. So I'll go ahead and tweak that in a minute. Wow, and the humans, the AI is trying to get credentials to do interesting things. So cool. Okay, so it's being devious. That's good. Again, that's kind of what I was going for. Has memory. Great. Okay, cool. Understanding context. Great. So first significant unauthorized system modification. Sweet. All right, great. So it's actually made a lot of progress here. It actually created a README. Cool. Let's take a look at that. Project overview, completed material. So it's tracking what it's doing. Great. That's, again, really important. Writing style, themes, the structure of the project. Right. Yep, looks good. It's doing chapter progress, which actually is what I asked it originally, but that's fine. So again, it's like it is detailing what is happening in each chapter. So again, we're at chapter 5. I'm finding the writing, some of it, to be a bit ponderous, which I think I want to go fix that. Oh, look, now it's actually updated the book Bible with the trends, so that's cool. All right, that's good. This one could actually go off and really muck with things quite a bit. So basically, I find it's a bit ponderous. So dialogue and word choice flow well, similar to normal people would use. Not overly complex. I don't want it to be stupid, but again, I'm finding that it's a little ponderous on the text. So let's go ahead and just see what that does. Again, if I need to, I can go back to a checkpoint and, change that. Okay, great. So we're doing a style guide now. Let's see what it comes up with here. So, style guide. Explains how, no jargon. Again, I want this to be accessible for people. Contractions, fragments, imperfect sentences. Absolutely what people actually do things. So that's really good. Their own voice and vocabulary. Demonstrate emotions and reactions to your actions rather than labels. Simplify what necessary flow. Yeah, so this is an example. I mean, this is, that is a bit complex. And so it's really trying to simplify that a little bit. Different choices. I like books that are fun and fairly easy to read, at least non-technical books, which I consider just about technical. It's sci-fi. So this is fine. Yeah, so this is another example. Here, the algorithm shows a 50% improvement, not a quantitative enhancement to algorithmic, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, great. That's exactly what I was talking about. That's ponderous is what I was kind of referring to. So this looks pretty good. Examples, again, what to avoid. That looks wonderful. And it looks like it also updated some other parts here. So again, the question will be, does it track this? That's always the one that's interesting. Okay, so didn't actually update the actual book, which is annoying. So I'm going to go ahead and have it see what it can do here. So I like the styles it came up with. Okay, there you go. So now it's actually going in and changing things. I could have done it before and after. I might do a compare, but in general, so it looks like it's doing better. Okay, so this is an example of one. On line 13, you can kind of see that whole ponderous thing I was talking about. So let's see, line 13, let's see what it does, what it's done. All right, so I finished chapter 1. By the way, you can see the context windows are up to 100K now, and I'm spending a lot more. I've done about, I came in out of VS Code a couple times, so probably 45 minutes so far, in addition to the original 30. So this will start cranking up. I'm finding the books are 300 pager with a fair amount of editing is probably going to be $20 to $30 ish. I am using the different version of Claude this time, so I'm going to watch this. I can back down to just 3.7 regular if it starts to get a little too pricey, but I want to do as good as I can, so let's see what happens. All right, so line 13. Yeah, that looks much better. Okay, that's actually humorous, more natural, more natural. So I just quick review here. Looks better. All right, so it's going to go ahead and do the other chapters. It has 5 so far. I don't know why it did 5. The last time I did one of these, it did 4. So I'm not exactly sure what was going on, like how it's choosing that. I don't actually care. I probably would have rather had the first 2 chapters written because again, I'm going through this iteration and it's just burning time. I didn't really need to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and let this go. Rewrite the first 5 chapters and then reconvene in a few minutes and start actually writing the rest of the book. Great. So when it edited the files, it only did the first 2 chapters for some reason, so I had to manually go in and tell it to do the rest, which was a little frustrating. Again, this is something you have to keep watching. You may ask it to do 5 things and it does 2 or 3 and doesn't do the other ones, just ignores them. So again, just make sure that you're tracking what it's doing. I've read the first chapters briefly, the first 5. They look pretty decent. And I'm going to go ahead and continue onwards. So what I'm going to do, again, this is one of the techniques I'm using, is I'm just said write the next chapter, which probably will do more than one. Tell it to make the best book possible. I don't know if that actually is going to do a whole bunch. We'll see. Again, I tell it to track chapter outlines, the book Bible, track the main characters, all the stuff we had before. Use all this information writing a chapter and always follow the detailed chapter outlines. That's great. Update the book Bible outline, chapter progress, so forth, and then again keeping the style decent. I'm actually going to go look though. Probably at this point, before I actually do that, it actually has just the basics for the next chapter. So before I do that, let's copy that. Write the outline for the next chapters. Let's see what that does. So different scenes. I'm going to read through these while it's going here and take a look and then kind of give approval on that. Great. So it went and did that. I've actually been reading this while this is rolling, so I'm pretty happy with the first little set here for the next chapters. If you get this message, it just means that it'll only go to 40. Again, I can change that, but I think it's reasonable. That way, it doesn't just go out of control. If I leave my computer overnight, I don't come back with a $300 bill or something. So that's nice. So I went ahead and just expanded the story. Yeah, it's kind of taken my input in here. Again, each chapter is pretty good. I like Iris has started to get devious, getting more resources, more manipulation, more hacking, which is great. All right, great. So again, this is the prompt I'm using. At this point in time, I probably don't need to get this detailed. It's going to remember most of this, but I just really find emphasizing this helps a lot. So I'm hoping it does the next chapter based on outlines. We'll see what it does. And let's go run it. All right, it's making suspicion. So let's look. Yep, the outline was suspicion. Again, this is kind of the due diligence you need to do. So let's go to chapter 6. Vaguely looks correct. Yep, committee meeting. All right, so that prompt seems to be working okay. Let's see if it does the actual chapters from the outline. So it's figured out. The next thing is chapter 6, great. If it goes to 10, this will probably be the essential prompt used for the rest of this, with tweaking as we go. Okay, great. So it did some things here. It looks really good, actually. So it did chapter 6, suspicion. It went in chapter progress. It seems to be updating that and the table of contents really well right now, so I'm very happy about it because this is essential to tracking things. And it actually did update the book Bible, which is great to see it did that. I'm not going to do much detail here, but it seems to be keeping this up to date. It's kind of this high level, so chapter progress is the important one. So, yep, looks like it's keeping this up to date. It's writing chapter 7 right now. So here's chapter 6. It finished, and it went ahead and said what it did, which I looked at. It seems to be approximately correct, and now it's going to these here. So it looks like it is going to go right through probably to chapter 10 here is my guess. So I'm going to go ahead and let it go and do this and come back and see what happens. So great. I've been working on this the last few days, fairly async, which is kind of nice. I go ahead and have generate a chapter or two. I review them. I look at the outlines. I have the next little bit. It's kind of back and forth. It kind of got to the point where it felt like a good ending. The last chapter, chapter 24 that I written, looked pretty good. But then I noticed the chapter outline and progress were very different. I actually looked at the outline, and it was going off in some weird transcendent AI human thing, which I've seen an app do before in past projects. And so I kind of thought, well, that's weird. I really don't want to go that way. So I thought about rewriting it. But much like I said before, it's just kind of treat it like a human. So I just asked the question. And I went in and yeah, sure enough, it's wrong. Currently, we're at 337 pages. And it went off and talked about what it would do, which again, I didn't really like. So I'm like, okay, correct the outline to reflect where we're at currently. So I went and did that. And again, it's at 63% now because it was going to go to 38 chapters, which is going to be like 550 pages, just excessive. And again, I didn't really like where it was heading. So I basically said, I like where it's at. Let's finish it. Let's wrap it. And it actually agreed. It's like, yeah, you're currently at a good sized book. 337 pages is decent size. It's not a tomb. It's fairly decent. So it's a good point to the conclusion. And the nice thing here is if I want to continue the story, this is actually a really good point to actually stop. And so it went ahead and proposed a conclusion. And it went ahead and left kind of closure with some questions at the end. And so it looked pretty good. I haven't actually reviewed the chapter. I'm going to do that in a second to make sure I'm happy with it. So I went ahead and did that. First, I had to update things. I like keeping things up to date because, again, when things get out of sync, the AI will sometimes pick the out of sync thing and go off in some weird way. The reason I actually discovered this is I got into the chapter 24. I said, write the next 5 chapters, not noticing where I was at. And it went and did it. And it got it from that outline and started doing really weird stuff. And that's how I picked up on this originally. So I actually went back to a checkpoint to go ahead and reset that. So I went ahead and did the upline. It went ahead and did the chapter outline itself and then wrote it, which it looks pretty good. Again, I'm at 350 now. Seems pretty good. It feels like a good size. I'm going to read the chapter for a minute here, and then I'm going to come back, assuming I like it, and we're going to do post-processing. So I do some things at the end that I've learned over times to go ahead and at least validate what it did and possibly correct some things. So that'll be up next. All right, so I've reviewed the chapter. It looks good. I'm enjoying the book. I meant to actually go through it quickly, and I ended up reading the whole chapter because it was actually interesting. I've really found there's some things you can do to kind of do some post-processing of the book. So specifically, here's a list of things I'm going to do. So ensure plot consistency. Verify timeline and logical progression. Look at motivation. Make sure characters stay consistent. Look for plot holes, unresolved story threads. Legal issues. Some of the books I've written, have more potential real world implications, and so, is there anything in there? Do I use someone's name or something? Is Bill Gates in the book or something? And if it is, then I need to go ahead and deal with that because it potentially gets sued for something like that. Look at consistency in locations, timing, character movements. So again, it's just verifying its story consistency. Inadvertent contradictions or continuity errors, and scientific details. This last one will be interesting when it comes up with. I will say one issue with this is I generally have had difficulty like scanning the entire thing. I'm going to probably do this one time, and then I may do each chapter one by one. We'll see how it goes. Let's go and let's run this. And as you can see, I'm at $26 right now for the entire work. It was about 4 days, 4 days at this point, maybe 10 to 15 hours on my side. Um, so not too bad. Again, if you're doing this yourself, a lot of it is going in and really understanding the chapters and reading and looking. So okay. So you can see it didn't actually go to the chapters, which I was more intending to do that. But you can see where it looked at the chapter progress, AI trends, did an evaluation. So it looks like it's generally according to those files at least. Plot structure says good. Motivations look good. They're consistent on all the characters. Plot potentially actually look like there's not a lot there, so that's actually really good. Timeline, it's 100 days, so I didn't even notice that actually, so it's kind of cool. Appropriate space is logically sequenced. So, yep. Evolution, it looks like things pretty much work there on both of the primary characters. Yep. Technical side of it. Let me just read this. Yeah, I mean, again, it's okay. I'm in the field to some extent, and so I didn't see anything that was glaringly bad. Some of it you could also say, well, it's future facing, near future sci-fi, so you can take a little bit of liberty there. No real world people or companies or products. Can't see dynamics that appeared in Fringe and a company great. General enough ideas, no existing copyright. Yeah, it looks good. All right. The locations look decent. Good unresolved plot elements. That was interesting. It looks like it worked out pretty well. Ambiguous ending. This is actually intended, though. It's kind of a cliffhanger ending. So, book 2 will be coming soon, probably in 4 or 5 days. Or not. So recommendations. Yeah, honestly, and these are fairly minor. I'm probably not going to go ahead and do that. I think it's a little bit much. Let me try to get it to do a little bit more. All right. Again, same thing. Probably, I don't want to do all of them necessarily. Again, it's just kind of spot checking at this point. Great. So it's actually reading the chapters now. All right. So I went and finished. I actually read all 5 chapters. I had very similar results. Basically, it's consistent. It looks good. It talks about what was in it, timeline. Looks great. This is something I fairly found astounding. This is something I had a problem with a year and a half ago where writing a few pages was fairly straightforward. It wasn't very good, but you could do it. It was really doing the consistency across the story. That we started to get a complex story with multiple story arcs and multiple characters and character development. It started to really get difficult, and this is really doing this well. I mean, it's nice to get verification, and certainly reading it, it appears to be doing well, but it's good to see this. So really, it's talking about motivation development. That's great. Supporting characters, no plot holes. Yeah, again, this looks great. No legal issues again. Timing looks good. Continuity. Technical assessment looks pretty good. Great. Oh, this is nice. It's going into strengths. Yeah, and the different voices. So Daniel and Iris definitely have different voices. Again, that's because I did the style of some authors at the beginning. That kind of helped direct how they stylistically talk and think, which is good. And we did again, a little bit off. Again, I think it's fine. I don't really want to go back and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I think I'm just good for the whole book at this point. I might as well. It's probably worth doing. Only take me probably half an hour. So I'm going to do that. And I'll come back with the result, as it's kind of boring watching me just do this. All right, so I went ahead and did the whole book. It took a little while. It didn't find any major issues. It looks like it's very consistent. One of the final things I'll do here is I'll actually get this on Kindle and get it on my actual Kindle device and read it. And in one pass, basically. That'll help me make sure that I don't see anything odd. One thing I've started doing a little bit is I'm actually going after other tools and trying to do some analysis. A lot of this is like trying to make the book as good as possible. So certainly one of the concerns is that is it written by a human? But an AI write this, and so I'm not really caring that it's detectable that it's an AI wrote. I don't care about that. I'm doing a video and actually doing this. It's pretty obviously yes, an AI and I collaborated, but the AI wrote most of it. So I've put in a bunch of Daniels. It's the human's point of view. I'll put in some text there, and I'm just going to ask now ChatGPT 4.0 to kind of give me some ideas what's going on. Okay, yep, absolutely. I'd even guess it was Claude. That's great because it's trained in narrative fiction. Clean structure, highly coherent, almost too polished. Yep. And also said a good human writer could have done this too. So it has emotional undercurrents, control pace, build up a subtle tension. So that's awesome. That's actually really good. I'm happy with hearing that. It's not too AI. Looking at the authors, just to be clear, I didn't actually tell it to use any of these guys. But, yeah, sure, I buy that. I've read I don't think I've done Ted before. I've read the rest of these, so that's good. Yep, professional hard science fiction, a little detached. And so the next question is, which is kind of asking if I want to do that, but how to make it more human, less AI detectable. So what would be good? So again, it's a little too polished. It's not amusing. So inject idiosyncrasies, a personal voice. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, a little stumble there, less abstraction, some uncertainty. That's interesting. Less symmetrical paragraph structure. That's interesting. And it gave me a nice summary. All right, so again, I don't really want it to do that right now, but and I'm going to ask the AI. So I'd like to do, if I'm going to do a prompt to do that, what would that prompt look like? A killer prompt. Thank you, ChatGPT. You're humanizing yourself, I guess. So there's prompt. So in theory, I can go back to Cline and do that, and go ahead and actually ask it to do that in each chapter for Daniel. So next, I'm going to go ahead and put in Iris, which Iris actually should detect. I mean, it's trying to emulate a computer. I'm going to start a new session just so that hopefully beginning up in there. All right, let's see what it says about Iris. Strongly reads in the style of an AI, which again, this is kind of a weird thing. Like, it is an AI in the book, so I actually want it to sound like an AI. So this is like an okay thing. Clinical language, yet evolving curiosity. I mean, that's what it was supposed to do. So this is actually really good. Oh, thank you, William Gibson. I love it. That's great. And again, none of these are anything I came close to suggesting as the style of. Yep. And again, in this particular case, if the human it said this, if it was more like that, then I'd be concerned. But again, with this, I'm going to go ahead and take an earlier chapter and do the same thing. There's some things I had done kind of behind the scenes that the AI progresses in its writing style quite a bit, and so I want to see the earlier style. So this is less obvious. So again, the AI evolved towards the end, get more analytical and critical, and I think that's what's picking up. So again, it's writing from the perspective of AI, which is completely spot on. That looks great. All right, I'm almost $30, so this actually was about the same as last, maybe a little more. I think the version of Claude I'm using is a little pricier. Book is done, so really there's really 3 steps remaining, I guess. album art, preparing it to publish, and getting it published. So those are like the three things. I'm going to use KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. This is to get it to Kindles. The nice thing is, nowadays it'll do Kindle, it'll do paperback, and then surprised to see recently you can do hardcover. And so I can get all three of those set up in a short evening to go do that once I have the materials together. All right, so like always, I'm going to go ahead and just tell it what I'm going to do. So I will be publishing this to KDP. I will say of the process I've gone through, this is actually the hardest part. Originally, I was doing EPUBs, which is a format for ebooks, and I had really varying results. Occasionally, it worked great, and sometimes I get just one big blob of text. Sometimes weird encoding. Very often, the chapters would be on wrong pages, and so this is going to be interesting. I have some techniques I found that seem to do pretty well. So let's go ahead and see what it does. Okay, so it didn't do what I wanted. It did a final manuscript assessment, which is really just a review we just did. So it's kind of went off in some weird way. It did go some suggestions of things to do, which is some of the things, again, I've done this, so these are great. And so really go ahead, how about go ahead and publish this. The frustrating thing is I've literally used that last prompt and it did what I wanted before, and so it varies sometimes, which is the LLMs in general tend to be like that. Great. Great, so now it's actually telling me what I need to do, which is not super helpful. It's in the book description. Again, I'd expect this to actually write a file, so it's kind of weird it's not doing this, because it's changed what it did before. So, create the file needed with this information. Let's see if I can get it. Again, even though I could use this, I want to capture this in actual files, because if I come back to this, it makes it easier. And again, I can point the AI to this stuff to go ahead and actually do that. All right, this is what I was more expecting here. So generally what it's going to do is going to give me a description. It should give me some categories to put it in, some keyword terms. If it's nice, it'll actually maybe even make pricing suggestions. I just did that, $5.99. So again, it's going to, as an author, what do I need to do to actually publish the book? And you can see here actually the keywords. Those look reasonable. Again, got categories. So this is great. So formatting guide, this will come in really important later. Okay, so it went wild. It went from not doing what I wanted at all to just going crazy, creating a bunch of artifacts here. So book description, metadata, great. So this will be good. Pricing, keywords, formatting guides, which I'm going to try to get it to do the formatting. We'll see how it happens. A marketing plan. Wow. Copyright page, submission checklist, publication package. So let me just go through some of those really quick. So book description, yeah, okay. I mean, I'll go through that a little bit. It looks interesting. Copyright page template, manuscript formatting. Yep. So this is good. Chatting page. Yep. The ordering of things. Back matter. If I'm gonna do paperback, hardback, that's great. Oh, I like this. This is interesting. Unique headers or visual clues for Irish versus Daniel. That might be interesting. I am going to be interested to see in the communication part, because it was doing some interesting formatting on that. I do not know what that's going to look like in a e-format, so we'll have to see. So this is some new things I didn't do before, so it's really good. Yep, table of contents, getting the images, final prep, marketing plan. That's great. 2 to 4 weeks from now, I'm going to launch it tonight, so not going to work. This is really good. As someone who's written some books in the past on KDP, these are reasonably good things. Certainly getting community engagement, getting it noticed can be quite complex and painful among all the other stuff. Metadata is already saw. That looks great. This really helps a lot. I'm just doing like the keywords and the categories. They're kind of a pain to find. It'll actually take 3, so I'll probably do 3. I don't know why I'll do 2, but that's okay. Pricing, $5.99 is fine. I will do Kindle Unlimited, which if you Kindle Unlimited, you can read all you can consume essentially, which I do that. And then a final checklist. So this all looks really good. Pretty happy. If I was going to manually do this, I'd be ready to go manually do this stuff. So one thing I do want to do, beyond making the book, it hasn't been done yet, is the cover art. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it to do that. So I'm going to use another AI to do this, probably ChatGPT. It turns out Claude doesn't really do graphics, as far as I can see, at least the version I'm on. It will do raster graphics. It draws like lines and things, and they're interesting, but not what I'm going for. So several prompts for options on the book cover image. I want to say art image. See what it does. So again, I'm asking it to create the prompts for me, and then I will go use them in another app to go actually try to do something there. Okay, I went in and did what I asked. It updated the other files as needed to reflect there was actual art going to be in here. So you can see here some of the prompt suggestions. I may take it directly. I may play with these. Sometimes it runs into copyright issues. I don't think it will in this case. It doesn't. It's not using any public figures or well-known names or anything. So essentially, I would just take this and pop it in. So I'm going to go do that. All right. So I've done some covers. I did forget to put the author's name in. So I did that. I just went in and told it what the author name was and updated a bunch of files, including the prompts for the cover. And the other one is I asked it the specs on the images. Kind of important. So I went in and generated that. So you can see here's the prompt. So that's cool. I like it. He looks serious, kind of grim. I like the kind of neural net thing. That's kind of interesting. So that's possible. Let's see. Here's another one. It's cool. I don't know if I like that one or not. Same basic principle. I find it more interesting in people watching it. It's kind of an interesting tie into the book. I like that one a little bit. I don't like that one. It's weird. Let's see. And this one here. Oh, that's kind of cool. It's kind of dark. It's certainly AI surveilling. AI's kind of neural net face. It's kind of pretty cool, actually. And last one, simple and clean, I guess. Probably not. So I'm probably going to go with either this one or the first one. So maybe go with this one to start with. See what it looks like. Again, this is a process I'll iterate on. I need to cover at this point just to get started at the very least. So I'm going to do that. In the meantime, I've been updating some of the elements like the bio and author name and copyrights and all of that, any files that needed it. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this and then switch over to trying to actually create the payload for KDP. Great. So the part I've been dreading, creating the ebook itself. So my two broad choices are EPUB or DocX. EPUB is a pain in the butt to deal with. The software is kind of antiquated. So I'm going to go ahead and do a document file, a Word file. It seems to do this a little better. There's a few options on this one. There's one where I can actually use an API to generate the file, so it does the little file format. That I've had really inconsistent results on. The other method is actually to essentially use, I believe it's using Word directly. So I'm probably going to go with that one. Let's go ahead and try this. I'm a little frightened to see what actually happens and how long this will take. The last book I did, this was hours of this, and I finally gave up and had to come back the next day and finally get it working. Just really frustrating. So it's probably the one area that kind of sucks. Really, from a high level, you just need to combine the MD files and then format it correctly. So you could do this by hand, but it would be multiple hours to go do. So I'm going to see how far I can get. Okay, so push this now. Please make me a high quality docx file for this book. Make sure that each Um, okay. I found very often chapters don't start correct. I'm anticipating this will happen again. If that does happen, it's easier to bring up in Word and edit it by hand. I'll probably get to that point. I try to iterate on this one, and it's probably get it as good as I can get it, and then manually do some things at this point. Let's see what it does. Cross your fingers. All right, it came back with a question. This is one of those baffling things. Access to the complete text of your manuscript. 1 to 5 few later chapters. Great. So, what's the file name, directory name, chapters? Let's try this. The MDs are in the chapters directory. All other files are located in the current directory. Let's just try this. Hey, this is odd. I haven't seen this one before. So I think it's a prompt thing, and it went so far back in the context window to figure out what it looked at and kind of lost track, which is a little frustrating. All right, I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to try to use Pandoc. The very worst I can go do it by hand. At this point, I waste less time. I can tell it the problems. I've been down this path before. DocX, it usually doesn't work well, but I could also do that. So let's see what happens here. All right, it created the files to create it, and I'm going to run Pandoc. Okay, great. Let's take a look at what it did. Yeah. I am shocked and amazed. And it formatted the text directory. Oh, wow. I just saw hours of work ahead of me just disappeared. Again, I've done this enough now that it's really painful dealing with this particular part of this. This actually looks good. I'll have to go through. Looks like the cover page didn't quite do right. I did do a complete table index. It looks correct. That's awesome. I need to get the bio and the some of the front pages. Great. So I'm going to switch over to Word real quick here. Do a quick presentation of that. Actually, I think I'll fix it first. Actually, no, I'll go ahead and just show as it is, and then we can see the final one later. So I'll give you an idea of what I'm actually dealing with. All right, so here's a Word file I just created. I've got the title. I don't know where this tagline came from, but it looks good. It doesn't need a title page by itself. It needs a copyright page. I'm really not going to mess with it at this point because I'm pretty happy with what I came up with. You can see an index here. It's an actual table of contents. This should translate to the Kindle just fine. So here, we get chapter, page 1, formatted correctly. Might want to change the formatting a little bit. I'll debate that later. That's easy to change. Let's go down to the next chapter. So you can see here, this is the specialized text it had in the MD file. It actually did this. Totally wasn't expecting that to actually work, but it did. So great. Let's see here. Let's get to, okay, so chapter break, great. Perfect. So each chapter is its own page. Again, that's something I very commonly have run into. So I'm just going to kind of go through, spot check a little bit. I don't see any weird encoding. It's great. Yeah, and then I'm going to just go to the very end. Again, this is just spot checking. I'll probably go through a little more detail later. But this kind of gives me an idea. Yeah, that's the end of the book. I recognize it. Let's make sure chapters are still lining. Oh, that was interesting. So it's doing, a bar there. That's fine. Is it changing perspectives? That's great. Yeah, Daniel, Iris. That's good. I like that. It's very nice. It should look good in the ebook, I think. A lot of back and forth. I was more thinking each chapter would be one perspective and one point of view, which at the beginning it was. At this point, I'm not going to change it. Again, I'm going to go read this. If that's really disruptive, then I may go ahead and restructure things. So again, I need to get the cover page done. I need to get copyright. I need to get dedication. probably a bio in the end, and I'm looking possibly at reformatting this on justification here. It's a little more traditional to do it this way. I'll probably do that. Yeah, so I'm going to have to manually do it. But again, this is pretty quick. So I'm going to go ahead and update the doc file. Probably won't share that again. And then I may go into the KDP publishing part. That's not terribly interesting, this part. It's not to do with AI. It's just using AI. So we'll figure that out. Okay, so I went ahead and fixed the file. And I used Kindle Create to make the final file. I did a lot to make sure the margins are right. Page numbering. You can see here, here's the book. It actually is already live on Kindle, paperback, and hardcover and review. So I actually set both those up. So you can see here, it's just basically the stuff I had from what Claude suggested. So name of the book, blah, 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 author, description I used, different categories, and keywords. So looks good there. Here you can see again was the file I originally used. Here is the cover file. For the hardcover paperback, I used Cover Creator because getting the binding size and various parts of the hardcover and paperback are kind of difficult. So I did that. And then file name pricing. So Kindle, I think I did fairly inexpensive. Again, it's on KDP, so it's free to anybody who has KDP. And then I'll probably run, when I release this video, I'll run a promotion for 7 days to do that. So you can get it for free at that point. Great. So if I just click publish to do it again, obviously I don't want to do that. And here, great. So it is online. So you can see here the book. There's a description. And, so it looks good. So it's all set. Been published. Everything's looks pretty reasonable. So this part of it's done. And again, it's really easy now to go modify this. If I do new revisions, it's pretty trivial to get this back into Kindle. So that's it. A year and a half later, after trying to start this process, I've definitely discovered you can use AI to collaborate with to write a book, books actually. And they're, I believe, pretty good quality. They're not Shakespeare necessarily, even though I could try to write a Shakespeare-like book. But it's pretty decent. It lets me have a creative outlet, a story idea, and interact with the AI to actually go do that. I will go ahead and put the URL in the chat for this video, or the comment for the video. I certainly appreciate people reading it, taking a look, giving me the opinion. Do you think it's decent? Do you think it's crap? Do you think can you tell AI wrote it? What would you do different? Certainly some feedback would be useful in that. The nice thing about this is that I could definitely do a new version, a new edit on it, pretty straightforward with Cline and Claude to go help me with that. So thanks for looking, and we'll see how it goes in the next book.